We all love ourselves more than other people, but we care more about their opinion than our own. That was a quote by Marcus Aurelius, a famous Stoic philosopher. Here's another quote. Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. And that was a quote by Lao Tzu, a famous Taoist. So you can kind of get at where I'm trying to go here. So, a lot of us, most of us, care too much about what other people think about us. Okay. And as introverts, I would argue that we care even more. In general, not always. And that's because us as introverts, we tend to be more introspective. We tend to be more deep thinkers. We are more in tune about how other people are perceiving us. We tend to analyze situations, reflect more, think about things more before we act. That sort of thing compared to extroverts. In general, but not always the case, but in general, okay? So if you're an introvert that cares too much, a little too much about what other people think about you, and you want to care less, this is the video for you. So we're going to start off with a couple of things I want to get through before I go into my experience. I got 5 things I want to go over, and also some tips to help you to start caring about what other people think about you. Okay, so one thing I want to go over right now, it's a little bit of psychology, okay? 3 psychology terms related to this. So the first one I want to go over is called the spotlight effect. And essentially what the spotlight effect in psychology basically says that we as humans, when we're in social situations, we tend to think that other people are looking at us. They're watching our every move. They are watching what we say. They are judging us, and to be honest, based on research in psychology, people really think or care less about us. They're not watching us as closely as we think they are watching us. In fact, people are caring about themselves. They're worried about how they're being perceived. They're worried about if they're being accepted to the group. They're concerned about whether their hair looks right, whether they're dressed correctly, whether they're being, matching with the social situation, blending in, that sort of thing. Because as humans, we all want to be accepted by other people, and that comes with trying to adjust to the social situation. Okay, some of us do it more than others, but essentially, the spotlight effect is that where we think that other people are watching us, they're really not watching us as much as we think. They are really worried about how they're being perceived. Okay, so the second thing I want to go over is called, again in psychology, is self-monitoring. And what that is when we're in social situations, we tend to kind of monitor our behavior. We tend to monitor what we say. And we are not really being ourselves, our authentic selves, because we want to be accepted by other people. We're not being essentially our authentic selves, and we are monitoring ourselves and adjusting ourselves to the social situation to make sure that other people see us in a positive way and other people are accepting of us. And I would argue that introverts do this more than extroverts. We are more introspective, deep thinking. We kind of hold back about what we want to say. We want to think things through, that sort of thing. So introverts tend to be higher in self-monitoring, I would say, compared to extroverts. And of course, I'm using the 2 extremes, introverts, extroverts, but there's always that middle, right? Ambivert. So it's a continuum, but I'm just saying it just so that's easier to kind of understand what I'm talking about. So introverts tend to be higher in self-monitoring. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to bring that down. So we want to be more authentic, more ourselves in social situations. Okay, so we want to try to do that. And the other concept is self-verification. And that's kind of related. So what that means is that essentially we're being more authentic. So we are verifying that how we're acting in social situations is actually who we are. It's actually who we are as a person. We're being authentic. We're filtering ourselves less. We are trying to fit less into the situation, into the social situation, and we're not adjusting ourselves as much. So introverts tend to be, again, because we're higher in self-monitoring, we tend to be lower in self-verification. Again, we're adjusting ourselves to the social situation, and we are trying to fit in. And again, it's just kind of how it is. And everybody does this, okay? Everybody does all these things. It's just kind of who tends to do it more. I would argue self-monitoring is done more by introverts, and self-verification is done less by introverts, but we want to increase self-verification. That means we want to try to be more authentic. We want to be more ourselves if we can in social situations and kind of care less about what other people think, right? So that's kind of the general route we want to take. But I do want to get to my experience here in the 5 points. So the first point I will say, actually before I get there, I do want to say that things like low self-worth, self-esteem issues, social anxiety, things like that. That can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter if you're introvert or extrovert. You could have these things if you're human, no matter who you are. But again, if you were trying to kind of be ourselves more, care less about what other people think, low self-worth, social anxiety, those kinds of things can make it more difficult. So you do probably want to address self-esteem issues, social anxiety first if you can, and then move on into these, because they will be, I think, much harder to kind of essentially kind of be more of yourself. But let's go ahead and start with this. I think that it always comes, so when we're trying to be ourselves more and care less about what other people think, I would say it starts with your mindset. So I would argue it starts with your mindset. Okay, so the first thing then I want to go over is point number 1. In my experience, what I did is I changed my mindset. I don't know if you're going to be able to read the red, but it's a little bit light on my end, but we'll see how it shows on the video. I changed my mindset. So what do I mean by that? So what I mean is things like I started questioning, basically posing questions to myself. So things like, am I living for myself or am I living for others? Am I living the life that I want to live, or am I living the life that others expect me to live? Okay. Am I doing what I actually want to do, or doing what others expect of me or expect me to do? Am I holding back because of the fear of judgment, or am I holding back because of other more legitimate reasons? Okay, so like we said in the spotlight effect, people really just don't care about you. Yes, they may notice things about you, right? They may notice, that you had a bad hair day, or whatever the case may be, that your shirt is wrinkled, right? Whatever the case may be, they may notice, but are they really going to care in an hour, in a day? Are they really going to care? They're not gonna remember. So that's kind of like the mindset. I started asking, am I really living the life that I want to live, or are other people just holding me back? Or not that other people are holding me back. It's just, am I having the wrong mindset? Okay, so I started asking those kinds of questions and try to help me to better just kind of get over that fear of judgment, and that it just really doesn't matter. What other people think about me doesn't really matter. Okay, it's all up to what I want to do, and kind of go in that direction. Okay, so number 2, I started doing small things where looks don't matter. And this one can be kind of silly, but it really helps actually to kind of get your foot in the door. So what I started doing is, I'll give you some examples. So I started throwing out the trash with my hair undone. Okay, just kind of like my hair when I wake up, right? I would, it would be time to throw the trash away. Normally, I would want to be at least look somewhat presentable. So I would kind of comb my hair a little bit, that sort of thing. But what I started doing is like, it doesn't really matter, right? I'm just going to throw out the trash. And if other people are around and they see me, who cares? Like, I don't even know them. I'm not going to talk to them. It doesn't matter. So I started just doing little things like that, just throwing out the trash without really, doing my hair or anything like that. Or sometimes I even challenge myself to throw the trash out without a shirt on, right? Normally, we wouldn't do that. We want to put on a shirt and, that sort of thing. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to go and grab the trash and throw it. And it's not that far. For me, it's just going downstairs and a couple of steps over. But it just kind of shows that, these lengths that we go to make sure we look presentable, where it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, right? Another thing I did is not shaving before going grocery shopping. Again, it's another those little things that we try to look presentable for other people, even when we don't even know them, right? But I'm like, does it really matter if I go to the grocery shopping, without shaving, without basically looking more presentable? It doesn't matter. If I'm just grocery shopping, what does it matter? Of course, if I'm going on a date, of course that's going to matter. Of course we want to do our hair. Of course we want to shave and look presentable. But when I'm just doing mundane things like that, who cares, right? So that's kind of what I started doing. You could probably get your own ideas. Okay. So number 3, I started doing things that I wanted to do, but was afraid. So I started doing things that I wanted to do, but was afraid. So, and again, when I say afraid of judgment, right? So some things in my personal life that I have been afraid to do, again, in social situations, would be dancing. So sometimes I would go to like parties or get-togethers with friends, family, and I would see people dancing, and I would want to go up there. I would want to join them, but I was afraid of what other people thought of me. Are they going to judge my dancing? Are they going to laugh at me? That sort of thing. Again, it goes back to the spotlight effect. People are paying attention to you less than you think and more to themselves. So I was afraid to do that, but at some point I got over that fear. I said, you know what? I'm just going to do what I want to do. If I want to dance, I'm going to do it, and I don't care what other people think. Of course, it's easier said than done, but at some point you have to give it a shot. Okay, you have to kind of essentially just go for it and do it, because there's going to be no other way. Okay, so feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So that's the definition of courage. Being fearful, which is okay, but doing it anyway, okay? Another thing is karaoke. So again, karaoke, you're even more in the spotlight here because it's just essentially most of the time just gonna be you singing. But again, it's something that I wanted to do several times in the past and just didn't have the courage to do it. But at some point I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna learn a song. That way I feel more comfortable. And when the opportunity comes, I'm going to go ahead and take it. And that's exactly what I did. And ever since, it's been like whatever, right? There's no for both dancing and karaoke. I don't really care about what other people think, and I just do it. I just have fun. And again, I'm living for myself. I'm doing what I want to do, not what other people expect of me, right? So another thing is asking girls out without the fear of rejection. And this is a problem that a lot of guys get into, is that they're afraid of being rejected by women. So they're afraid of even asking because they're afraid of what if they say no. But again, it goes back to not caring what other people think. We got to think about, what I started doing is thinking about, okay, what's the worst that could happen, right? So if she says no, so what? She says no. We move on with our lives. She moves on with hers, okay? And that's it. Nothing truly bad happens. It's just in our mind. It's just a story in our head that it's going to go really, really bad when all it is just some sort of no, okay? Or it could be yes. You never know until you try, right? But anyway, those are some things I started doing, and just letting go of, and I'll talk about, I think that's number 5, but kind of letting go of expectations. So number 4, actually it's this one. I started accepting all outcomes. Essentially what that means is, again, if I'm doing something that's outside of my comfort zone, and again, for me, it was dancing, karaoke, asking girls out at some point, I'm accepting all outcomes. If they say no, no problem. There's, life goes on. If they laugh at me, no problem. It doesn't matter. If they criticize me, no problem, So kind of think of it, no matter what happens, just take it and you'll be okay. Okay. So that's kind of the mindset I started adopting. And in fact, you could actually play around with it. What I started doing is just agreeing. Okay. So just agree. If they say, you know what, you were really bad at dancing, or, hey, your dancing move sucks. Whatever it is, people are usually not going to say something so straight. But let's say you do get criticized for whatever reason. You could just say, okay, no problem, right? No, all right. So nothing happens, right? You just agree, and they're not going to expect that. They're going to expect resistance, but you just agree, say, okay. Or if you want to add humor to it, you could actually add humor. You could actually amplify what they're saying. If they say, man, you really are really bad at dancing, or your voice sounded kind of raspy or bad during karaoke. Oh yeah, it did. You know what? It did. It was so horrible. I'm going to be the worst singer. I'm the worst singer on this planet. It's just, you know what? I should just stop. Thanks for letting me know. So something like that, you could use humor to kind of just diffuse it. Okay, just kind of laugh at yourself. Laugh at any criticism. Let it go. That's kind of the mindset. Accept all outcomes. And number 5, and that one, I started being more assertive. So what that means is basically, being more direct. Okay, being more direct in things that I want. Okay, giving my true opinion. People tend to go with the group. Even if they don't agree with the group is saying, they tend to just go with it, even though they have their own opinion. They're afraid of conflict, right? And that's natural, but at the same time, we also want to express what we feel, okay, or what we think, our true opinions. I'm not, I started asking for what I wanted without apology, okay. Not apologizing for things that don't require an apology. So, saying sorry for little things that don't matter. Well, if you did something wrong, apologize, but don't say sorry, can I ask you a question? Like, you're not, you think you're bothering people, but you're really not. So, don't be so apologetic about things that don't require an apology. Sometimes we're just too soft, and we're not getting kind of a point across in a more direct manner, which can be appreciated by many. And with that, I'll also say a lot of this and other things that have helped me came from a book that I bought a while back, which is The Art of Extraordinary Confidence by Dr. Aziz Gazipura. And this is not sponsored. I'm not sponsoring, I'm not getting any money. I'm just saying that this is a book that if you really want to apply all these things and much more, and just totally kind of transform your life and live it really the way that you want to live without fear of judgment, this is the book you want to go ahead and grab. But so that's kind of what I started doing, okay? Being more assertive. And now I'm going to go into some tips to help you to start living the life that you want to live while eliminating or reducing fear of judgment. Okay, so tip number one is you want to choose a challenge that you want to overcome and start small. Yeah, so you want to start small. You want to find something you want to kind of try to get over, and start small. Pick something small that you can do that's manageable. And then if there's a preparation component to it, go ahead and prepare for it. That way, when the situation comes, you're ready to go. Okay, so that's tip number one. Start small. Number two, what you want to do is you want to ask yourself, what do I want to do? You know, and that's when you're in the moment. When you're in the moment, when you're at a party or with friends and you want to do something, they're doing karaoke, they're dancing, they're playing a game, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. And you really want to do that, but you're being held because of the fear of judgment, just go for it. Dip your toe in there if you can, just go for it, okay? Just try it, okay? Just try to go for it. And again, within your comfort zone, but we want to do, again, little by little, okay? And number three, so even if fear stops you, go for it anyway. So, and courage leads to confidence, okay? So courage, and when I say courage, that means when we're fearful of doing something, but we do it anyway. That's having courage, okay? We're all afraid to ask a girl out, most of us. But few of us do it. So we want to feel the fear and do it anyway. And when you have that, when you have courage and you go for it, you're going to increase your confidence, because now you're actually seeing the result of taking action. You're going to see that it's not that bad. It's not that bad, and meaning that your confidence is going to increase and it's going to want you to do what you're doing even more. It's a snowball effect. That's what I noticed in my life. The more I did things outside of my comfort zone, it started snowballing into confidence, okay? And now we want to do number four. And number four is ask yourself so. And I talked about this earlier, but ask yourself so, and you'll see that 9 times out of 10, it won't really matter. So again, if you're afraid of being criticized for something or being afraid of judgment for any reason, you could always kind of play scenarios in your head and say, okay, if they say this, so what? So what? What's going to happen? What's the worst that could happen? They could criticize me and I say, okay. Or I could, like I said, use humor, right? To diffuse it. It doesn't really matter. Their opinion doesn't matter. It's about what I want to do. That's kind of like the mindset that we should have. So just as kind of like the so type of strategy there. And number 5, it's don't beat yourself up. If an opportunity passes where you could act and do something and you don't do it, don't beat yourself up. It's all a learning process. Just try again next time. Go for it next time. There has been plenty of situations where an opportunity rises for me to kind of step outside my comfort zone for a little bit, and the moment passes and I'm like, darn it, I should have gone for it. But then I remind myself that it's okay. It's okay. It's a learning process. For me, self-improvement and personal growth is it's a lifelong process. It's never ending. It's not about it's not having a destination. So it's okay. Don't beat yourself up, and just go for it next time when you have the opportunity. So it's okay. So it's okay if an opportunity passes, okay? So now I'm going to ask you guys. I want you to put something in the comments. So what is it that you want to work on? I'm really curious. What do you guys want to work on? And let me know what's stopping you. What's stopping you from doing that? And that'll help me get some ideas for videos. So if you want to see something specific for a video, let me know. and I will do my best to get that, get a video out about that. So yeah, put it in the comments, and hopefully this was helpful, and we'll talk to you guys later.